Mapped geographically, the shipments traced a continuous corridor along Interstate 95, the primary transport artery running the length of the eastern seaboard. The analysis lead stared at the screen for a long moment before speaking. "We've just found the main artery of the network," she said, "and it runs straight through the heart of the justice system." A second file labeled Legal Permissions contained a list of 12 local officials and 3 police officers, each annotated with operational notes. Delay notice cleared, weekend ruling confirmed. Secure corridor, no inspection. If verified, those annotations would constitute direct evidence of active, coordinated interference with law enforcement activity by individuals sworn to conduct it. What struck investigators as almost more disturbing than the content, however, was the medium. There were no dark web servers. No elaborate encryption schemes purchased from sophisticated criminal hackers, no aliases or secondary identities. The entire operation had been coordinated through standard Excel spreadsheets, ordinary Outlook email accounts, and synchronized digital calendars. The infrastructure of an organized crime network spanning 7 states and generating hundreds of millions of dollars in revenue had been built on the same software tools used by middle school teachers to plan lesson schedules. Authority, it turned out, had rendered complexity unnecessary. Over 17,000 files were ultimately extracted from Hale's devices, including more than 200 deleted emails. Many contained character strings corresponding to the names of Panamanian shell companies, with attachments describing shipments under simple numeric codes. When those codes were matched against customs manifests, the correlations were exact. Date, weight, container number, all accounted for. Hale had not merely provided protection for the network, he had been coordinating its logistics. Chapter 4, The Reckoning, Operation Crosscut. With the evidence assembled, verified, and legally sealed, federal authorities authorized a full-scale, multi-state interdiction, Operation Crosscut. At 5:30 on a Tuesday morning, a single encrypted command was transmitted simultaneously to joint units of the FBI, DEA, and allied state law enforcement agencies across 7 states. The message contained 2 words: action, all units, no sirens. No press, only the synchronized movement of hundreds of agents and the blinking red indicators of coordination centers going live. In Savannah, Georgia, a row of riverfront warehouses that had presented as abandoned, peeling paint, rusted shutters, no visible activity, were surrounded. Thermal imaging had already confirmed movement inside. The entry was swift and professional. Within 3 minutes, 14 individuals had been detained and 92 kilograms of heroin and 41 kilograms of fentanyl had been secured. In Houston, Texas, a factory in the Westfield Industrial Zone was simultaneously breached. 2 armed men attempted to flee across an adjacent rail line and were intercepted by K-9 units before reaching it. Inside, the air carried the sharp chemical signatures of acetone, ether, and industrial alcohol. Flat glass trays on work tables held residue of white powder. A soundproofed interior room contained an industrial vacuum press used to compress narcotics into standardized bricks, each of which bore a torn emblem that cartel members called the Seal of Silence. In New Jersey, drones surveilling a container yard outside Newark tracked 3 trucks leaving the facility simultaneously. When agents moved to intercept the second vehicle, they discovered that its cargo had been labeled as humanitarian aid. Beneath a layer of genuine relief supplies lay compressed packages of heroin and cocaine. Within 15 minutes of the initial command, the network had effectively collapsed across all 7 states. The final accounting was extraordinary. 1.8 tons of narcotics seized, 312 firearms recovered, and $142 million in cash, gold, and securities locked down. 184 individuals were charged. 21 of them were from law enforcement, 5 held administrative government positions. But in a filing cabinet inside one of the Newark facilities, agents made a discovery that quieted the room more thoroughly than anything else recovered that morning. Inside the cabinet were hundreds of laser-printed pages. Each listed a name, a position, and a coded financial transfer. Handwritten at the top of several pages in ink was a single line: Hale guarantees clearance. Do not deviate. It was, in its way, the most complete document in the entire case, because it confirmed that Hale had not been a passive beneficiary of a criminal network that happened to route business through his jurisdiction. He had been an active guarantor, a signatory, a man who had placed his personal assurance behind the unimpeded movement of narcotics through the court system he administered. Chapter 5, The System Looks Inward. The institutional response to Operation Crosscut unfolded across multiple levels simultaneously, and none of it was comfortable. In Washington, the Department of Justice convened an emergency closed-door session. On the conference table sat 47 red folders, each bearing the name of a charged official. Among them, 12 sheriffs, 3 district prosecutors, a state transportation director, and 2 officials with documented ties to federal funding streams. Legal teams worked for 48 continuous hours, categorizing the evidence into 3 parallel tracks.